Hey everybody, welcome to Trading Futures with me, Anthony Crudele. We have a great show for you today. I will be joined by commodity trader Kushal Thaker, futures trader Yra Harris, owner of Yoga House International, Clare Crowley, trader and performance coach Dan Hodgman, and last but not least, futures trader Dani Sittloh. Welcome to Trading Futures. Kushal, Ira, great to see you guys. Thank you so much for joining me.
Anthony, great to see you.
So Kushal, you told me that you're a specunomist.
That's right. So it's a coined word where an economist who has become a speculator, trading in the markets on the basis of the economic principles of demand, supply, production, consumption, and inventory, hence the term speculator, specunomist.
You told me that the next 2 years are the most crucial you've seen in some time for fundamentals.
Of course. It's kind of a black hole that is developing in the entire financial system of the world. And if any problem coming in from any major economy, for example, the Deutsche Bank is having a problem, you have the Chinese banks which are having a problem, and if one of them goes bust, this is going to create a major problem even in the stock markets of USA. So I am seeing somewhere the economy slowing down and the stocks collapsing by 10 to 15% in the coming 2 years.
Interesting. Ira, you and I talk all the time.
Mm-hmm.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I can pick up from what Kushal said because, you know, Anthony, so much of my work revolves around analyzing debt, not only U.S. domestic debt, but global debt. And everything that he says, there are things starting to come to a fruition. And Europe is going to be a mainstay of this. We're now having the passing of the baton to Christine Lagarde, which I personally believe is a gigantic mistake. But that doesn't mean I don't understand where they're going and why they're going and why she's paramount to what they want to do in Europe. As you know, I don't hold Mario Draghi in high regard. I think that he has really corrupted the global financial system, even though he has helped sustain the status quo in Europe. But things are coming to, I think, an interesting time.
Why do you think Christine Lagarde is a huge mistake?
I don't think she really is has the tools to work with it. I don't think she's done a great job with the IMF. She's a politician. And what, to me, where Europe is going is, again, what is the exit strategy? You know, where you have the same thing with Powell. Powell thought he had an exit strategy in the United States. He pivoted so fast, it was incredible back in January. What's the exit strategy for the ECB? I believe that the exit strategy has been, and what Draghi has tried to do, is to build up this massive balance sheet at the ECB that will be rolled into a Euro bond, which is what they failed to do, what many people warned, from Milton Friedman and Rudy Dornbush and Martin Feldstein warned that you were doing this, you were rushing too far ahead with the currency, but in an effort to get fiscal harmonization, they have to come up with a Euro bond. And that's, to me, why Lagarde is there, because they think she has the political heft to pull this off.
We only have just about a minute left. Kushal, I want to know what you think about what he just said.
What he's saying is absolutely on the dot, because what they are trying to do is kicking the can as long as they can. Now, one fine day, either the can will land up in the garbage or the can will just disappear. And then there'll be nothing left. So it's the game of musical chairs will come to an end, and there will be an implosion in the global economic system.
I understand this stuff because I read what you guys are always talking about, but I want to talk about it from the trading perspective. So what are we going to talk about today when we go to the charts today?
So I was looking into, whenever there has been major falls in the global economics, there is one metal which always stands out, and that is platinum. In the last 7 decades, there have been 5 major collapses in the financial system of the world, and each and every time platinum has doubled in 24 months. And hence, even at the current scenario, I'm looking at platinum, which is, I think it's trading around $840, $850. I do see in 2 years it can be a $1,500 price. And usually it is the super rich of the Europe and the Americas which start moving into platinum during these phases because it is much safer for them with lesser quantity.
Ira, what are we going to be talking about with you today?
We're going to look at the European markets. We're going to look at Euro Swiss, Euro Sterling, how it's going to fall out, especially now. Today it's an interesting day because, of course, we have a new Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, which the standard narrative is to discard him, but he becomes interesting here, and how it's going to play on the ECB, which meets on Thursday, because it's going to have some fallout. But I agree, he said, and I think Kushal's right. We can talk about this. It's gibberish if we can't turn it into a profit-making outcome, right?
True.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just gibberish. It's more.
Exactly. Guys, thank you so much. Kushal, you ready to go to the charts first up?
Of course.
All right, everybody. Next up, Kushal and I will talk about coffee, platinum, and the E-mini S&P. So stay tuned.
This is my headquarters. This is where I trade and manage my portfolio. Since I added futures, I have access to the oil markets and gold markets. Okay, I'm plugged into equities, trade confirmed. And I have global access 24/7, meaning I can do what I need to do. Then I can focus on what I want to do. Visit learnfuturestoday.com to see what adding futures can do for you.
Welcome back, everybody. Kushal is still with me. Kushal, let's take a look at some charts.
Of course.
Let's start off with coffee weekly.
Right. So what we have seen in the last decade is that the supplies from Brazil and Vietnam have been very high on the production side of it as well as on the inventory side of it, and that has resulted in the prices collapsing one way. But the situation now is changing in a major way. The coffee culture is developing across the world, particularly in Asia as well as in the Americas and Europe. The tea drinking countries like China and India have been moving towards the coffee pubs now. In every nook and corner of every city town, there is a coffee pub that is coming up, localized or international, and that has resulted in huge demand coming in. And the current situation is such that the crops are getting affected in both the countries, the major producing countries, and this is going to result in a major upswing in the prices of coffee.
Any positions in coffee right now?
I do have a long position already taken, but this time I have been a little more careful because coffee is a very, very volatile commodity. So I have gone mainly for the out-of-the-money call options.
Oh, so you've gone to options in this particular instance?
Absolutely.
Typically, are you executing?
No, usually I prefer to go directly into futures, but where coffee is concerned, I just need to wait for one more season before actually taking a cemented position into it.
Quick question before we get into the next market.
Sure.
All this time, coffee's been going down, but why is coffee stay so expensive?
The reason is most of the coffee manufacturers and distributors have not been able to hedge coffee properly in the markets. So that has resulted in their inventories going up as well as their costs going up. Over and above that, where retailers are concerned, we prefer to take high blended coffee, the aromatic coffee, and automatically the condiments that are added to it are a little more expensive.
Let's move on to platinum monthly.
Absolutely. Now this is one precious metal, though let me clarify, I am long gold and silver also, but platinum this time is one metal that is going to stand out in the sense, over the last 60 years, there have been 5 major collapses in the financial systems of the world or in the economies, the downturns, and every time platinum has doubled. We have seen it in the 2008 crisis because this chart ends over here, but otherwise if you go back in time, in the 80s, 70s, whenever there was a Japanese recession, you had the Second World War, you had the 70s Bretton Woods Agreement and everything that was signed. Platinum has always doubled from there. Again, we are looking at a similar situation, and the super rich of the Europe and the Americas are going to move into platinum as the safest haven. And this will result in the prices going back to 1500 plus levels.
So you think they can go back to 1500 plus, and are
Yes.
your long futures right now?
Very much so.
How do you know where you're wrong in this position? I know you focus on fundamentals.
Usually, I follow a very simple rule. If I'm wrong by 10% of my cost of my position, I get out of it.
Now, what happens if the fundamental theme doesn't change? When do you get back
I
in?
have to re-enter again. Once I feel that, yes, the prices have gyrated in a particular direction, the liquidity is back, the volumes are back, and I move into it again.
Last market we're going to talk about today, E-mini S&P, and I've got a weekly chart here.
Absolutely. So here I'm not looking from the chart perspective, but rather I would look at it from the earnings perspective. S&P 500 in the last 2 years have risen on a very, very thin breadth. 46 companies of the 500 companies only have resulted in the prices going up from 2,300 to 3,000 currently. And I think the breadth is too narrow. The earnings which S&P 500 is having, the trailing 12 months is around 175. The projections are 190. It's running a very high multiple. The sustainability cannot be there of such a thin rise. And hence I expect this thing to collapse by nearly 10 to 15% in the coming 2 years.
Are you short S&P right now?
I have started shorting, as whenever it goes above 3,000, I do add a few futures contract to it, and I'm waiting.
So 3,000's an area where every time it's getting above there, you're getting
Of course, and I will be keeping a 10% stop to it.
Last question before I let you go. How do you know you're wrong being short the S&P?
The fundamentals have to project themselves in the sense, if more companies start registering better earnings, at least 50% of the S&P 500 companies, in that case I will consider myself wrong and I will reverse my positions.
So this is really a lot different than what a lot of us day traders do. You are going off of fundamentals. You think that they have to change, so you're going to continue to basically just get in and out. So how are you managing risk along the way?
You have to keep deep pockets.
Deep pockets is right, being
Deep
short
pockets.
this thing.
Absolutely.
Kushal, thank you so much for sharing your insight today. Next up, everybody, Yra Harris will join me to chat about gold, silver, Euro Swiss, and Euro Pound. Stay tuned.
Why trade with TradeStation? It's innovative, easy to use, and totally freaking sweet. With powerful tools to track and execute your trades and low per trade commissions on stocks, futures, and options. Upgrade your trade at TradeStation.com.
Welcome back, everybody. Ira is now back with us. Ira, let's go to the charts. First thing I pulled up was the gold daily with the 200-day moving average.
Yeah, it's so beautiful because you see the correction, Anthony, when it came down. We got through there. It came down. It's so beautifully held that support. And you know from what I've written in the blog for months and months and months, and for those who've written with me, that's very important. And this all took place. This rally in the gold has also taken place with the rally in the S&Ps and the dollar holding strong. So all the things that people thought were not possible are possible. And here it is. Where it goes from here, we'll see. But you do see the way that this played out.
Yeah, no, you've been talking about gold on the blog for some time, and you were on this move here. Quick question before we move on to the next charts. Are you still long gold? And initially, when you did start to take some gold longs, do you just lean on the 200-day moving average? How are you managing risk there?
No, well, I was buying them against that, especially against the currency, because my big play was to buy the gold and sell the Swiss for various reasons, because they're both viewed in people's minds as some type of haven. And then when they started to separate and the gold really took off. So now I've lightened up because we've gotten into some resistance, and it's been a very quick move. And I always will lighten up into a move of this because it was so rapid.
And now that you've lightened up, what would then get you out?
It would come back and violate. I'm looking at the 1375 to 1380 area. And if it did it if the interest rates, that'll be my key point here. If the curve were to absolutely invert in a real meaningful sense while the gold is breaking, I would get a little bit nervous. That'd be one of my indicators.
Gotcha. Okay, so now I pulled up a gold daily with the 200-day and also the silver, because I know that let's try the gold-silver spread, right?
Correct, right. And you don't see it here directly, but you see that silver languished. And what it told me, the ratio went to a historically pretty rich 93 ounce of silver to an ounce of gold, which is rich. But somebody had put on a pretty big play. Now, over the last, Kushal told me 15 days, I was thinking about 10 trading days, we've seen a very sustained unwinding of this play, which is now interesting, which means the whole market is starting to set up, and silver is actually starting to outperform very well. Now we'll see where this goes. If silver holds the 1580, kind of like we get that symmetry there, and then starts to get up over $17, $18, we're going to be in the throes of a really nice metals move across the board.
Any positions right now in
I'm long some silver.
Long some silver. Mm-hmm. Euro Swiss. You talk about this all the time.
Euro Swiss, which is for people in Europe, this is a very indicator of any uncertainty. And the Swiss are trying to prevent this, because when you see this going like this, when it goes lower, the Swiss is gaining against the euro. You got to wrap your head around that. So we have now violated, this is the 200-day moving average.
Actually, I think
200 week.
Yeah,
I'm
200
sorry.
week.
So we've gone below the 200 week. This is very important, because why is this happening? We know what the Swiss are busy intervening all the time, and yet the Swiss is gaining, and this has to be bothering the Swiss National Bank, the S&P, and it's important of where are they going to let it go until they get to the danger zone. You can see right now it's at 110.32 today. If we get back into this area here and starts to take out this low, you can look for some type of massive intervention or an announcement from the Swiss and go, we can't hold it anymore. But they're so committed to this, they will hold this.
Any positions here?
Well, I've been short the Swiss, even though this is gaining against the euro, for my own reasons, because it's much more symmetrical with the gold for me.
Before we get into the next chart, I know that you're not necessarily trading on this long of a term of a time frame, right? When you see this, how does this translate to your intraday trading?
Well, I'm always moving in and out. It's one of you. Long-time traders will have caught this whole thing. I just don't. It's just I've been doing this 42 years. That's my comfort level. I always have to feel that I'm taking something, because that's the same way in which I take losses. It'll be so because I'm a good loss taker. It leads to sometimes culling some profits out.
Yeah, I was curious because when you see a breakdown like this happening below this 200-week moving average, you see how it's bearish. Mm-hmm. I'm just wondering if intraday you're solely looking at shorts. Are you trading both sides? How does that all work?
Both sides, because there'll be, I'll put up a 240-minute chart, and I may see a different, so there'll be a retraction coming. But it tells me more about the overall global economic perspective. There's a lot of information in that.
Let's talk about the euro pound. Big news today. And I know that you probably have a lot to say about what's going to happen.
This is a very interesting chart, because today's Boris Johnson now is the Prime Minister of England. And the ECB has a meeting on Thursday. Today's Tuesday, Thursday meeting. Now, as you see, when this goes up, this is the euro gaining against the British pound. And we're going back all the way to here. This is 2016, so you get to see the election. So you see the drastic move up of the euro against the pound, because everybody has bad wrapped, and I'm using that phrase, and the narrative is that if Britain just leaves the EU in what's called a hard Brexit, that it'll be disastrous. It's not necessarily so. In fact, this eases the disaster, because the lower the British pound goes relative to the sterling, the more difficult it becomes for Germany, especially, because Germany runs a huge trade surplus with the Brits. They also have huge supply. Think the Mini Cooper, which is owned by BMW. You have Land Rover. There are all types of things that are involved here. And if the pound weakens dramatically, corporations are not going to be, manufacturers are not going to be leaving the UK, because it'll be too big an advantage to have a weak sterling in an export manner. So this becomes very, very important. If these highs get taken out, the pressure comes up, and you'll see it. And what's to tell? The British stock market, the FTSE 100, has been performing very well. And even the gilts. So if there was that much bad stuff going to happen in England, who'd be buying the gilts at 70 basis points? That's what they yield. The U.S. 10-year is 205 basis points. The Brits are, with a coming disaster, who would be lending money to the Brits?
Yeah. Great stuff as usual, Ira. I'll be sure to stay tuned to your blog to see what comes of this. It's going to be very interesting stuff. Next up, everybody, we will hear from Dan Hodgman. with Top Steps Moment of the Week. Stay tuned.
Why trade futures with TradeStation? You can trade over 80 products from home, work, or on the go with a powerful, easy-to-use interface and prices that let you focus on padding your wallet, not emptying it. Upgrade your trade at TradeStation.com.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm now joined by Dan Hodgman. Dan, what's Top Steps Moment of the Week?
This moment of the week is pretty cool. Lately, we've been hearing a lot in the news, and if you're trading, you're hearing all-time highs, new all-time highs. But the intimidating thing about trading all-time highs is we're in untested waters. So when you look at a chart and you see that the market is now at all-time highs, what are your points of reference? How are you trading that? What are the things that you're looking for? And James T., one of our funded traders, was really able to take advantage of that by framing out his trade. I sound like a broken record. Every time I'm on here, it's frame out your trade, know you're out, where are you getting in? You know, it's always the same thing, but James really took advantage of a breakout by strictly framing out his trade. So when we're sitting here just looking at the daily, simply put, we have our prior all-time high, and we have a nice trend to the upside. Okay, we started to frame things out. We're looking at this on a daily, and obviously we're trending higher. We came down, we checked that support line. Remember, what was once resistance becomes support once we break through. And so when you're trading those trends, one of the biggest things, so if that market's moving higher, as a day trader, you really want to think about buying weakness. We don't want to just jump in when we see a bunch of green bars. We got to find a little opportunity where that market shows weakness. And what's great about this, James was sitting there in the overnight session and found a nice weakness that came right down to that support line we were looking at earlier. And once that market checked the support line, he saw that there was rejection there. The market kind of held it up really nicely. He found his opportunity to go in. He bought it at 79.50 3/4 and was patient, sat in it for quite some time, and sold out right up at 79, 77.5, and I was able to walk away with $540 while everyone else was sleeping.
Nice work, Jimmy T. Now, I want to go back to, we don't have to go back to the chart, but does he always start with a daily?
Yes, and that's, we've talked about it before. It's something that we teach all our traders. Start a little bit higher time frame. Everyone is day trading over a Top Step, and so we really want you to get an idea of how it looks on a higher time frame before you start to zoom in. And a lot of guys are going to either a 60-minute or probably a 30-minute chart from there.
So then James went to a 30-minute, and now this is that daily
Support,
resistance, now support. Yep.
Exactly.
And then he waited for it to test it. And what you're saying is that after this reaction here, he saw it come off, then that's when he got in.
And that was his opportunity. Puts his stop just on the other side. He actually, I was talking to him, he traded it earlier in the prior session. He took advantage of the same level, took a long up, decided, hey, let's give it a shot again.
So he puts his stop below here, and I see up here he sold near that high. Why?
So his target was actually 79.80, and one of the things I always tell traders is if you're starting to get close to that target and maybe you're a little nervous, if you're within a few points, by all means, shut it off, take the profits, and move on and forget about it.
Especially in the Nasdaq.
Exactly, you know how snappy that can be. So a couple lessons in execution this week. Obviously, keeping those stops tight. I'll continue to say it. I'll say it again and again and again. That leads to good opportunities. You can take advantage more often when you set yourself up with tight stops, waiting for your entry. You know you have an idea of where this market can go. He waited for the market to show a little bit of weakness, found his entry, and took great advantage of it. Define your trade. I think this will be every single week. I will mention defining your trade. And then lastly, discipline. Being disciplined to that plan, being disciplined to the levels that you've defined will help you hold yourself accountable.
I love the homework that James put in. Looked at the daily, drew his line out on the 30-minute, waited for the reaction. He didn't just buy upon testing support. He waited,
Exactly.
then got in, put his stop in, and let the market do the work for him.
Exactly.
Great
Sacrificed a few points there, but you know what? He got a great trade out of it.
Yeah, great work, and great stuff by you again this
Thank
week,
you.
Dan. Next up, everybody, Dani Sittloh will tell us what's on her radar using Wazzabull. Stay tuned.
This is my headquarters. This is where I trade and manage my portfolio. Since I added futures, I have access to the oil markets and gold markets. Okay, I'm plugged into equities, trade confirmed. And I have global access 24/7, meaning I can do what I need to do. Then I can focus on what I want to do. Visit learnfuturestoday.com to see what adding futures can do for you.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm now joined by Dani Sittloh. Dani, what's on your radar?
Hi, Anth. So today, while we have new things coming down the pipeline on the app and the website, I'd like to just take a step back and show all the viewers where to find them and how to filter for them.
Cool.
All right. So first things first, you got to get to the website, right? And so if you look at the headers, you click on products, you will see that new strategy providers will be listed. So as I scroll down, you can see there's Red Sky Futures Momentum, Red Sky Futures Reversal, and they'll continue on as we continue forward. Now the key is, all you gotta do is click subscribe. Super
Very cool.
easy.
So these are new alerts.
Yeah,
All right.
new alerts,
Nice.
new providers, new different types of alerts. Yep.
All right, I like it.
All right, so the second thing I wanted to show, if you go to the top right corner on the website to your account, you'll see, if you scroll down, you can click on subscriptions. There are the subscriptions again, so you can add subscriptions and unsubscribe.
Okay, great.
Yep, and then the last thing I wanted to show are the symbols. So once you've subscribed to a certain type of alert, you can also pick which type of products that you want. Now, as you can see, I want them all. So, yeah.
It's a lot of markets to be following, Dani.
Right, I'm a little hungry for some information. So anyway, but I wanted to get that out and let everybody, show everybody what's coming through the pipeline and how to access it on the website.
I appreciate that. No, that's
Yeah.
really good information to know. I'm really excited to see these new alerts. Are we going over one of them today?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Oh, yes. Of course, right? That's why I'm really here, is to talk about one alert today. So actually, this is one of the strategy providers. It's Red Sky Momentum. It's a bearish alert, so momentum trade goes through the trend, right? So today it's crude. Crude oil crosses below the 200-day moving average. Awesome. 71%. Likely to hit the downside target, 29% likely to hit the upside target in a 4-hour outlook.
So 200-day moving average, 4-hour outlook. It's actually a very short outlook for crossing a 200-day moving average, and
Yeah.
71% chance it gets 58.62.
Right, even lower. Crazy,
Yeah,
right?
and only 29%, 59.25. Okay, let's see what happened.
All right, and the uptake comes actually 8 minutes later.
Whoa.
Yeah, so shorter than the 4-hour outlook. It hits the target and goes lower.
Yeah, I mean, what I like about this, I mean, we talk about this all the time, right? Everybody, the 200-day moving average, everybody in the media wants to talk about it, everybody talks about it. And what's great about this is, once again, there's statistics behind it. Yeah. It's back-tested. What is the probability of it getting, when it gets below it, and how far it could go? And also, as you and I talk about all the time, if it doesn't get the below target, there's a 29% chance it gets the target up top at 59.25. Really gives traders the ability to play both sides.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, I like this alert. Great insight, Dani. We're only doing one alert today, but great info on these new alerts. I'm excited to see more of them coming out.
Me too, me too.
Thanks so much, Dani. Next up, everybody, in Beyond the Charts, Clare Crowley will join us to discuss the significance of sole ownership. Stay tuned. Hey, everybody. Thank you for tuning into the show. To learn more about the charts I use, Wazzabull alerts, the basics of trading futures, and how you can even get funded to trade futures, please visit anthonycrudele.com. Now let me take you right back to trading futures. Welcome back, everybody. Kushal and Ira are still with us, and we are now joined by owner of Yoga House International and Haymarket Brewing Company, Clare Crowley. Clare, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Clare, you talk about sole ownership, S-O-U-L. Talk to us about that.
Well, sole ownership came with Yoga House International. I had been 8 years in ownership of Haymarket Brewing and coming off of a film career, and also I was an amateur champion in boxing. And so success. Type A, living, results oriented. And I kind of just hit this physical crash in my body. And I was tired and I was not happy, but it made no sense because I had I had everything on paper that I ever went after. I had it all on paper. And I really did some soul searching. I did a lot of hiking, and I asked myself in these long hikes out in the dunes, what do I need? What do I need? And I needed more of that. I needed more hiking. I needed more freedom. I needed more food, actual nourishment. I needed peace in my body and my being. And Yoga House was born from that. Those asking myself, what is it that you need to feel whole, to feel happy? And very quickly, Yoga House was born from that. You know, I need to be outside. I need homegrown food. I need dinners at night. I need to give to people. So soul ownership is asking yourself what you need and taking responsibility and taking ownership for your first house, your first business, and that's your body, your mind, your spirit. And that is where Yoga House came from.
I think we as traders can all relate to this because, let's face it, you have to take sole ownership in this industry, in this business, if you're going to be successful at it. And I love how you said that you had everything on paper. I felt for me personally that sustaining success was harder than reaching a level of success. Because once you got somewhere, staying there was very tough. Claire, talk to us about the initial steps we as traders can make to start thinking that way, having sole ownership.
I feel a great place to start is asking yourself, am I happy? And if you already know the answer to that, where I'm not, something's kind of off, I'm not really that happy, ask yourself, why? Why are you not happy? Where do you not feel good? Pay attention to where you're not feeling good in your body. Pay attention to your relationships and how you interact with the people around you. Do you feel complete joy when you're with people, or is there a lot going on between you and your closest relationships? And take accountability. What can I do to make this better? What can I do to make my body feel better? What can I do to make this relationship better? And really start from there. And ask yourself, what do you really want to do? What do you want to do with your life? What do you want to do with your next 5 minutes? And just because something seems hard or unattainable doesn't mean that it is. I believe that everything is attainable. And if you want to live in a peaceful life, if you want to make more money, if you want to be a disciplined person, all of that is completely accessible. It just takes with an honest conversation with yourself and then taking the action to create exactly what you have envisioned for yourself.
I love it. And while we were all getting ready to come out here, and Ira was getting his makeup, right, Ira? We know how he likes
I
to
don't use makeup.
No, so you said, you know what, I have a question for you guys. We only have 30 seconds left. I said, wait, ask us when we're all out here. What was the question you wanted to ask?
I'm really curious if there is something, an idea or thought you have about yourself that may have crept up when you were 10, 15, 25, 35, and it's this idea that keeps popping into your life that you can't really shake. It could be a fantasy, it could make no sense to the rest of your life, but I really believe that's your soul calling.
Who wants to go first? I think Kushal, you seem ready.
From the time I have started my career, the aspiration has been the same thing, and I continue to want to have that, is a Midas touch in every aspect of life.
What about you, Ira?
I'm living it. I get up every day, and the fact that I get to partake in a dynamic world in a dynamic way, it's all I ever wanted. I'm not a static human being. I'm not a static thinker. So to be able to partake in it and actually earn a living at it, it's like, wow.
Oh, I can tell you this, I don't have answers as good as these two guys, but the first thing that comes to my mind is I started doing meditation about 5 years ago, and being able to achieve feeling the way I do after meditation all the time. Because now I need it constantly to keep me grounded and balanced. So I really am striving to have that, that calmness about myself that I really get from meditation.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I feel like that's how Yoga House came about. So I'm excited to see what you create from that.
Before we let you go, where can people learn more about Yoga House?
You can go to yogahouseinternational.com. And you can follow us at Yoga House _international on Instagram, or you can reach out to me, and I'd love to talk and create with you and see what you're working on as well.
This was awesome.
Thank you so much.
Claire, Kushal, Ira. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in today. You can catch all of the episodes on anthonycrudele.com. And you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram. See you next time. Let's see if I can